everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of News for Normies. I am Millennial Meditations, your host, bringing you a week's worth of news in a short time frame. So if you enjoy this content, if you're a first-time watcher, thank you for tuning in. Please make sure you hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and share this video with just one person in your life. One person in your life who pays more attention to football than news, because those are the people that need to hear this kind of stuff. So, again, thank you. And also, if you're watching on YouTube, go to Rumble. They are much more friendly to people like myself and just creators, content creators overall. So go over there, follow me there, or Spotify. Those will be down below, down below. And as well as all references for things that I talk about in this video. So that way you know I'm not just coming up with things out of thin air like Candace Owens does. So, that being said, let's get on to the news. Starting locally here, 4 people were shot outside of a nightclub in Over-the-Rhine area of Cincinnati. One of the people who was shot was actually the nephew of the club owner. Thankfully, nobody died due to this shooting incident, but it could have been a lot worse. So, you know, you'd think after the recent string of crime increase and public backlash against the leadership in Cincinnati, things would change, but that's kind of hinting at some stuff later on in the video. So, I'll get to that later. And still staying kind of local, UPS Flight 2976 caught fire and exploded at the Louisville airport.
Bro, get the fuck away from here, like turn around. Bro, no, hold on. I think it's gonna crash, bro. Holy shit. Holy shit. Holy shit. Damn, they're dead. They are dead, bro.
The plane that you saw there in that clip was an MD-11 aircraft fueled with 38,000 gallons of fuel. Sadly, 12 people were killed due to this crash, including the 3 men on board the plane, and 11 more were injured due to the explosion. Now, this plane was originally manufactured in 1991, but was not originally a freight carrier. It was later converted into a freight aircraft. And from what I have heard, this one plane in particular had a long history of maintenance issues, kind of more so than your average, routine maintenance. Now, again, I'm not a plane expert. I cut metal for a living, so this is just things I've read. If I am wrong, please correct me. I don't want to be like CNN, just spewing fake news. Finally, some people are still accounted for after this crash, so I hope they are found soon, alive, preferably, so they can be reunited with their families and loved ones. But we shall see. Hopefully the best things happen in this situation. And speaking of the best outcome, the FBI stopped an Islamic terrorist attack in Dearborn, Michigan on Halloween Day, so a week ago as I record this, as you see here. Now, according to Fox News, quote, Mohamed Ali, not Muhammad Ali, my words, going back to the quote, Mohamed Ali of Dearborn, Michigan, and Majed Mahmoud are accused of plotting to launch a terror-inspired mass shooting codenamed Pumpkin, according to court documents. They've been charged with receiving, transferring, and attempting to receive and transfer firearms, knowing and having reasonable cause to believe they would be used to commit terrorism, end quote. Now, while I am glad this was stopped, obviously, because, Halloween is a day where kids are out having fun, I'm not shocked this happened there in the Dearborn area, since Dearborn is a safe haven for Muslims in the state of Michigan, and recently caught some backlash after debuting a new police badge with English and Arabic writing on it, as seen here. Yes, this picture is real. It happened, but the badge was quickly revoked after receiving a lot of backlash real quick. Who would have thought that? So, yeah, as I've stated before, Islam is not compatible with the Western world at all. You will not change my mind on that one. All right, moving on. Eric Swalwell, very well-known Democrat politician. Is he Democrat or is he Republican? I don't remember. They're all pretty much the same. Anyway, Eric Swalwell is under scrutiny for paying a staffer $120,000 a year for odd jobs. FEC records show over 75 different payments to his Haitian staffer named Darlie Meyer as far back as 2021, with payments for things such as travel expenses, car service, security services, salary, personal travel reimbursement, event flowers reimbursement, and postage. This definitely seems very fishy, considering that when you look into the details, these payments range from like roughly $50 up to like $12,000 at one time. So like, that's a lot of postage. That's a lot of flowers. Weird. Yeah, fishy. But it doesn't surprise me that Swalwell was doing some shady stuff, because don't forget that Eric Swalwell also got caught banging a Chinese spy. How this guy is still in office and not in prison is beyond me. But, go after George Stephanopoulos for whatever bullshit they brought up on him, and not a dude who was literally banging a Chinese spy. Okay, now, the big news that everybody's been riled up about. Election results from Tuesday. There were several key elections across the country, and we're going to start with the most, probably the most important, Zohran Mamdani. He was elected mayor of New York City. Congratulations, New York. You're in for a hell of a ride. But, as anybody would celebrate after their election, winning their election, this footage was actually taken from his victory party after he won late Tuesday night. Yeah, so glad to see, in this case, Zohran is sticking to his guns. Now, moving on to, I guess, lesser important, if you want to call it that. I apologize, my nose is itchy. Virginia, the state of Virginia, elected their first woman governor, Abigail Spanberger, which is, kind of funny that she was running against the Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears, who's a black woman who legally immigrated to the United States, served in the military, and was a business owner. So she kind of checks all the boxes, but yet the Democrats showed their racism and didn't vote for her. Also, they elected in Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones, who, if you don't recall, said he wished death on his Republican opponent and their children in 2022. Yeah. Mickey Sherrill was elected governor of New Jersey, so congrats. This is literally the first time I've heard her name. Proposition 50 was passed in California, so they're going to gerrymander even harder. It's Gerrymander 2, Electric Boogaloo, or whatever they're calling it now. And kind of hitting back to the top of the episode, Cincinnati reelected Mayor Aftab Puraval over Corey Bowman, who is Vice President J.D. Vance's half-brother. And from what I heard, also in the exit polling from Cincinnati, people didn't vote for Corey Bowman simply because he was related to JD Vance. So that literally just shows the state of intelligence of people today. Yeah, again, you'd think in Cincinnati, when you've seen a huge increase in violent crime in your city, you would vote for some better leadership, but I guess not. I guess your hatred overtakes your intelligence there. So, in the end, Democrats celebrated this blue wave, but almost all of these elections were in blue states anyway, or like heavily Democrat areas, so it's kind of like spiking the football on your own end zone. Like, most of this is not shocking. Now, for anybody on the right who is freaking out about this or doom and gloom, this gives the Republican Party ammunition to campaign on for the next couple of years. Don't forget we have midterms coming up next year. So when New York City completely crashes to the ground, Republicans can do their whole "I told you so" tour, and hopefully that works in their favor. Also, it would help Republicans if you grew a pair of balls and actually did something. So I think the best news that has come out of this kind of stuff this week is that Nancy Pelosi has announced she will not seek re-election. It only took her 40 years to make that decision, and, she sucked up a net worth of around $250 million, rough estimates, that she acquired on her own, and never, ever, not one time, ever, in a single situation, discussed upcoming legislation with her husband that would affect the stock markets, and who, her husband also trades stocks. That literally never happened, not even one single time. It's funny how socialists and communists, like, the Bernie Sanders and Zohran Mamdanis of the world, blame the ultra-wealthy for America's problems, but conveniently leave out politicians such as Nancy Pelosi, who've gotten rich while being in office. Also, don't forget that Bernie Sanders owns like 3 different homes and flies private all the time and all this stuff, but wants to ridicule other people for living a lavish lifestyle. Like, what? Anyway, in relation to what's going on in New York, Republican Elise Stefanik has announced her bid for governor of New York.
Kathy Hochul's failed policies, New York will rise, like we always do. The spirit of the Empire State cannot be broken. All we need is a courageous leader, ready for the fight. Elise Stefanik will make New York affordable and safe. Elise Stefanik will clean up Kathy Hochul's catastrophe and restore New York's greatness. Elise Stefanik.
Now, she is currently a U.S. representative from New York's 21st District, so she goes to D.C. and represents the people from the 21st District of New York and D.C. So I hope things work out for her. Don't know much about her, so I might have to take that back later. But however, Representative Mike Lawler is also considering a run for governor and will make a decision in June, apparently. So that may become heated. We don't know. Or you never know. They may work out a governor, lieutenant governor type situation. We'll see. Staying in New York for a second, several polling locations in New York were the target of swatting threats on Election Day, so that's fun. And polling locations in New Jersey had bomb threats called in. I guess I shouldn't have said called in, because these threats were sent via emails to the respective boards of election, but none of the sites were closed down. Nobody got hurt. They ended up not being credible, I suppose. Investigations are underway as to who made these threats, but, if I had to guess, nothing will ever come of this. Or, if a one person or a group of people is found, it'll be something that gets posted in local news up there and nobody else will hear about it. So, yeah. Even when you go to vote, just keep your head on a swivel. You never know what weird people are lurking. And finally, in New York City. The New York City Fire Commissioner has submitted his resignation following the election of Mom Donnie. I think his name was Robert Tucker, if I remember correctly. Should have put that in my notes, but I missed that one. However, I imagine this will be the first of many, many resignations and early retirements of first responders in New York. I mean, we saw that happen quite a bit during COVID and the Summer of Love when the whole defund the police thing was going on. So I imagine that's going to get ramped up even more. And as I have stated before, whether you are police, fire, or just a ordinary person, if you leave New York City, leave your shitty politics behind. Don't turn Pennsylvania, Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, Florida, anywhere else you go into New York. You left there for a reason because the policies that you kept voting for turned the city into a shithole. Don't do it to other people. Your politics are cancer on this nation. It's time for you to change. You, the Democrat people who keep voting for this kind of shit, you have to change. Okay, moving on. Judge James Boasberg, talked about him a couple times before. Seems like he's finally feeling the heat a little bit as he is facing impeachment over his role in the Arctic frost probe on several Republican senators.
Judge Boasberg, who was entrusted to sit on the bench, to be impartial, and to be non-political, and to basically review cases in front of him and determine the constitutionality and the legality of the claims in front of him, he has taken it on his own to be a hyper-partisan judge going after Republicans, signing off on subpoenas that are unlawful. And he signed off on them just to get his political rivals. This is why he needs to be impeached. I commend Congressman Brandon Gill of Texas for leading this effort in the House to call for articles of impeachment of Judge Boasberg. And it'd be interesting to see what Minority Leader Schumer has to say about all this. Because if it's okay for a federal judge to sign off on subpoenas and warrants against Republicans in the United States Senate simply because they're going through not just fishing, like Senator Johnson said, this is not a fishing expedition. This was entrapment. This was trying to bury and to suppress your political rivals, all to maintain power in Washington, D.C.
Now, the articles of impeachment come after Ted Cruz called Boasberg out last week for this very thing, and Representative Brandon Gill introduced the articles of impeachment. So hopefully Boasberg is ousted for this and faces some jail time as well, because this was clearly illegal. And, you know, as Democrats like to say, no one is above the law. So hopefully Republicans hold them to that. But, you know, we'll see on that one. Speaking of courts, SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, held a private meeting today, November 7th, to decide whether they will take up the case on Obergefell v. Hodges, or kind of colloquially known as, you know, the gay marriage rights. It wasn't officially an act, but y'all know what I'm talking about. I personally think this is a bad idea, as I've stated before, as this will just pour jet fuel on the left-wing fire that is already raging. And personally, I don't care. I don't care what two adults do in their home, as long as, you know, they're both consenting to whatever happens and nobody is being hurt. I don't care. I don't care. Really don't care. And I'd rather the Supreme Court take up a hearing on the NFA Act, as it is blatantly unconstitutional, has been since it was implemented, and since the Big Beautiful Bill passed, the NFA now has no teeth. If you don't recall, the Big Beautiful Bill had a provision that would reduce the cost of the tax stamp for suppressors, short barrel rifles, things of that nature, to $0. So now there is no tax coming in from it, and therefore it has no enforcement mechanism to it. So hopefully that comes soon as well. I think that is more important for the Supreme Court to hear, rather than what adults do in their own home amongst themselves. Now, moving on. This is one that people have been talking about for, it seems like, the last 6 months. I know it's been a couple weeks now, but the Trump administration had planned to cut 50% of food stamps going forward. However, a judge has ruled that the Trump administration has to fund food stamps fully. Since this was never, a budget thing that was passed or anything like that, I'm not sure how this will be done. And, no matter how Trump decides to do this, the left will smear him for it, as they already are. They're, saying, oh, Trump's starving families and Trump's keeping the government shut down because blah, 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 blah. And so that's already the play. And then if Trump tries to, move some money around to fund this, they'll say, oh, that's illegal. You can't do that because of blah, 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 blah. So the Democrats are trying to back Trump into a corner here. I don't think it's going to work because we all know that the government is shut down because Democrats want to give illegal aliens free shit. That's literally what it boils down to. So when people try to claim otherwise, push back on it. It is not true. The Democrats want to give illegal aliens free shit. Now, this next story was very ironic. A press conference the other day had an unexpected interruption.
Creating high-value jobs. But today, Oh, you okay? Gordon, you okay? Yeah.
We're going to break away for just a moment as
the man who collapsed in this video here, his name is Gordon Finley, and he is an executive from Novo Nordisk, a Danish pharmaceutical company. This incident is highly ironic because the press conference was about lowered costs of GLP-1 drugs here in the United States. So I hope he recovered from this. This happened a couple days ago as I'm talking about it. So I hope he recovered and lives a long, happy life and, doesn't push drugs on people that will cause them to overdose and die. All right, moving on. The FAA may close thousands of flights in the near future, and I think already has, because of the government shutdown, and close certain airspace over the United States due to air traffic controller layoffs. Trump is still calling for the end of the filibuster to reopen the government. But again, as I just stated, if the Democrats would agree to not give illegal aliens free shit, the government would reopen. Simple as that. And, it's funny how the Democrats talk about common sense laws for gun control anytime, a mass shooting happens, but it's not common sense that people who aren't citizens of this country shouldn't benefit off the tax dollars of the citizens of this country. Weird how that works. And as I've stated before, liberal logic is not meant to make sense. Never has, never will. Moving on, CBS, the corporate media company, is apparently spending $10,000 per day on bodyguards for Barry Weiss. If you don't remember, she was recently hired as head editor-in-chief for the network, and even though she's left-leaning with her politics, she's not about the extreme left-wing woke commie bullshit. So if this doesn't show you that the left is violent, then you need your eyes checked. Especially after last week when I showed you the one lady from, what was her name? Jennifer Welch from her podcast saying that Democrats need to get on board with, violence against conservatives. Otherwise they're next. Like, they're literally saying it now. Just blows my mind. And finally, this one's interesting. Don't know how I feel about this one. A mysterious object has been observed in our solar system, which has been named Comet 3I/Atlas, or maybe just Atlas for short. This object has been fascinating scientists across the globe as it has been acting strange for a comet. According to Defense Scoop, quote, in the aftermath of the discovery, Harvard University professor and astronomer Avi Loeb said there was a chance that an interstellar object with such perplexing aspects could be an alien probe. Other theories, including that it could be sending signals or messages from another world, subsequently went viral online in recent months. So right now, it's anyone's guess as to what's going on. And who knows, maybe this will be the start of Project Bluebeam, or maybe it's actually aliens who are trying to come to Earth and maybe, kind of test the waters a little bit, see what's going on. Who knows? Let's hope. I think the best option would be aliens and not Project Bluebeam, because Project Bluebeam would literally be ushering in a one world government. If you don't know what that is, well, you're on the internet. I encourage you to go look it up. Not affiliated with this podcast or a sponsor or anything, but the podcast called The Y-Files did an episode on Project Bluebeam. Very interesting, very informative. I'd encourage you to go check that out if you don't know what I'm talking about. So that's all I've got for this week. Yeah, I'll keep an eye on the UPS flight thing and try to update that next week. Yeah, that's all I've got. So thank you. Thanks for watching. Share with some normies in your life. Share with one person who watches more football than news, as they're the people that need to hear this kind of stuff, and fight the culture war with your dollars. So with that being said, thank you and take care.